Hi, and welcome everyone to 1623 Studios ARTWaves, a new weekly program dedicated to having meaningful conversations with talented artists hailing from Cape Ann and beyond. I'm Christine Fisher, fellow artist and lifelong cultural champion, and I'm your co-host of this program, along with Jackie Ganem DeFalco, a dear friend and fellow artist. Over the next 10 minutes, I'm very excited to welcome my first guest, Matt Cegelis. Matt is a very well-respected digital media artist and photographer who lives on Cape Ann, along with his equally talented wife, Ruthie Schneider, who we hope to have on the program at a later date. Matt is very involved with the arts locally here on Cape Ann. He serves as a board member of the Rocky Neck Art Colony, and he is also the webmaster for the experimental group led by Nella Lush, which falls under the Rockport Art Association and Museum. So a big welcome to you, Matt. Delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you bet. Why don't we set the table, so to speak. Let's talk a little bit about your journey for those that may not know about your early origins.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll start with my first camera, which was
That's great.
a Polaroid Swinger. Around 1965, I was 11 years old, and the Swinger was a $20 camera, so it was affordable. I used to bring it everywhere, and especially to our neighborhood playground. And I would take pictures of my friends and the playground equipment, and the trees and the sky.
Oh, I love it.
And just experimenting with different things to take pictures of. And my friends liked the pictures I took of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mom liked the nature pictures. So those were early signs, I guess, that that I might be good at it, and that photography was a cool thing because my friends liked it.
Well, it sounds to me you discovered that you really loved it, and you know how wonderful is that.
And
So
then,
yeah, please go ahead.
Fast forward to the early 90s, and I was working as a sales training instructor for LexisNexis. And they gave me a digital camera to help illustrate the sales materials.
Ah.
And I got to take it home with me, and I was able to use it to make a picture that I entered in a photo contest that USA Today put on for amateur photographers.
Wow.
And I won second place.
Wow.
The prize was a brand new Olympus digital camera.
Wow.
Which was wonderful. So that was a late guidepost that I might be good at this.
I love it, Matt. I love it. That's great. I'm learning something. I think this is a great segue. How would you describe your work? It's so intriguing to me. So how would you put words to that?
Well, I think it's mostly abstract, very experimental.
Yes.
My work with the experimental group really has helped me develop an eye for patterns, things that are different, unusual, different light patterns. So I'm always looking for those kinds of unusual subjects to photograph. And so I'd say my work is pretty cerebral.
Yes.
If you like abstract art, you'll probably like it. If you won't.
Well, I happen to love it. And I think it's full of mystery, and it makes me wonder. So I really appreciate what you do. So why don't we talk about some of your early inspirations? I think everybody would find that very interesting in terms of perhaps how they have informed your work.
Sure. My early inspirations were the abstract painters. Paul Klee, Dali, more surrealistic than abstract, but I think he was a combination of both. Klimt, Max Ernst, going all the way back to Kandinsky.
Wow, okay.
One of the pioneers in abstract painting. I just love his shapes and just so interesting and different.
Right. Well, all of them have influenced the arts landscape really tremendously. So those are wonderful to mention.
And most recently, I went to a show at PEM, Peabody Essex Museum, featured the photographer Olivia Parker,
yeah,
and the famous abstract painter Hans Hofmann. And both of those artists really inspired me with their work there.
Yes.
And there was a short video that played on a loop in one of the small rooms as part of Olivia Parker's presentation.
Right.
And the loop showed her using a technique that she developed that involved, she was sitting on a stool and she had some things arrayed in front of her. One of them was a colorful glass jar.
Yes.
And the sunlight was streaming through it in patterns on the floor, and she was photographing. And she also was using what's called glass block. It's an architectural.
Oh, certainly. Yep.
You know, it distorts whatever's behind it. So the light streaming through the glass jar, the colorful glass jar, made these amazing patterns on the floor.
Wow. Yeah.
And photograph the patterns. And
wow.
So the next day, I'm there doing it at my house and making
great.
Interesting stuff. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I went to her show also, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing. Yeah. And the fact that she's local too is pretty terrific, an extra bonus. So Matt, I'd love to ask you, you know, given this pause that we have right now, how are you using your time? How has it impacted your art practice?
Well, it's given me a ton of time to focus on and play with new ideas, research on the internet, what other folks are doing. So I've been very productive lately. Work out there. I try to make a finished piece every day.
Oh, excellent. Good for you.
And so it's a great time to do it. And I think the glass is half full for me. And I hasten to add that it's because the pandemic hasn't impacted me or my family that I know of, and none of our close circle of friends has been impacted by it. So that, you know, it just hasn't hit me yet.
Right. Well, let's hope it stays that way, right? Paves the way for uncluttered art making. So let's move on if we can, and kind of, you know, pull back the kimono a little bit and and talk a little bit about your process. I think everybody would be so intrigued to learn a little bit more about how you do what you do.
Sure. Most of my work starts with a digital image on my cameras.
Right.
And I use my iPhone XR every day because you know what they say, the best camera to have is the one that you have with you.
Right. Well said.
So, travels well in my pocket. And I not so often use my Nikon D7000. So again, most of my work starts with a digital image that I make with the cameras, and I also use a scanner for a process that I use Citrosolve with. Have you heard of the process?
I'm very familiar with it. Is it possible to quickly describe that?
Yes, it's a mixed media artist's tool.
Yeah.
That I learned from Susan Guest McPhail.
As did I.
Who teaches at the Rockport Art Association. I think we were in the same class.
Right.
And it involves taking this organic solvent called Citrosolve and sprinkling it, applying it hardly like to the pages of certain magazines and catalogs that have, the pages are made of high clay content, and the inks are very rich and dense, and with high pigment content. So National Geographics are very famous for that.
Right, yes.
There's also a catalog series called the RH catalogs.
Oh, great idea.
And you can see on the edge there, from my fingers touching it, what it does to the inks.
Oh, yeah.
And so here's the inside of that cover, and you can see sort of what that does. And so this was taken from that catalog and I applied a lot of Citrusol.
Wow.
And this is sort of how it looks in the raw.
Yeah.
And what I do with this is take it to my scanner. The scanner is like a camera, really.
Certainly.
And make a digital image that I can work with in Photoshop and sort of my other digital tools. And you can, when the inks are dissolving and swirling around, which takes around a half an hour.
Right.
You can manipulate the inks with any tool that you want. Some of my tools that I use are a toothbrush. When you dapple it, it can make interesting.
I love it. So non-precious.
Well, pine tree.
Oh, wow.
Here, you can sort of rake the things around.
Oh, Susan Guest McPhail, I hope you're listening.
And these are the husks of some acorns.
Oh, wow.
They're good for making circles.
Oh, excellent.
Any kind of twig or thing that you find in the natural world that has interesting things to make textures with in your dissolved inks. So I do a lot of that. And in fact, this thing that I just showed you,
yes,
after I was done with it, with my digital processing tools, I entered it in the Rockport Art Association's national show.
Yes.
Which was, from all over the country, people entered. There were about 700 entries for that show. I think 160 were accepted. And the piece that started with this was juried in the show. It made me feel pretty good.
Oh, as you should. Yeah.
And that, I think you have an image of the finished piece.
That's right.
It's called Untitled 068B.
I loved it. It's just full of mystery and it's just dreamy. The colors are dreamy.
Thanks. And I printed it on Hanamula watercolor paper.
Ah, okay.
Without glass or acrylic in front of it because the texture of the paper is so beautiful.
So Matt, do you have a favorite step in your process or does it vary from piece to piece?
I think the favorite step is after I've gotten a whole lot of raw material.
Right.
When I'm taking pictures of abstract things, I take a lot of pictures.
Right.
Different angles. I'll use this little clip-on 5x macro lens.
Ooh, cool.
That clips on to the lens of my camera. And take all different light, different angles.
Wow.
And so, when you get into the macro world, it's just full of abstracts, stuff you never see in real life.
Well, I can tell you're thriving in that space. Your work exudes. So the last question I want to ask you about process, and then we'll need to move on, is how do you know when you're done? As an artist myself, it's always a question I ask myself. Am I done? Do I need to do any further tweaking? So how is it that you resolve that?
I guess it's just trusting my instincts.
Yep.
When it gets to the point when I'm working on a piece that I really like it, and I could say, I could do more to it,
right?
Different to it, but at this point, it might be gilding the lily.
Yeah.
I'll just, boggle my mind with which one do I choose, this version or that version? And so I'll just know when to say when. And I think that knowing that is sort of a double-edged coin because a lot of things I do, I spend a lot of time working on them.
Yes.
But they're just not to the point where I'm really super happy with them and I'm not put them out there. So I'll just abandon that project.
Okay.
Put it aside, maybe I'll look at it in a couple months.
And let it breathe.
Yeah. And maybe I'll just delete it someday because it's going nowhere.
Yeah. That's a great response to that question. I think that'll be helpful for other people too. I'd like to ask you, since art making is an internal process, how do you balance that with community? And you are so very active in the community. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. Of course, everything's different now.
Yeah.
We can't, hug and handshake with our favorite artist friends.
That's right. Yeah.
Bond that way. But we have technology that helps us stay connected, although it's not in the normal way.
Mm-hmm.
We have Zoom that we're on now. And as you know, Nella Lush at the experimental group initiated a weekly Zoom meeting with artists.
Yeah. Right.
And so 15 artists every Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Get on, and Nella facilitates and asks questions about how people are doing and how's the making going. And so there's that. There's social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that. I like to get on and I like to post my stuff.
That's a good segue into promotion.
Yeah, but I want to say that to support the sense of community that I like to feel, I like to like and comment on and love my friends' work and other artists who are not friends yet, but I still love their work. So just, giving feedback to the other artists, what I like and why I like it.
Yeah.
And two-way street, getting back that same thing is really a tonic for me too. I mean, I've got a piece that I just made a couple days ago, and I just put it up on my website and I put it on Instagram, and I'm getting a lot of really good feedback.
That's terrific.
The piece is called the elusiveness of clarity. And it's
a great title.
It also started with a citrusol.
Everything comes back to citrusol. I love it. That's great. That's great. Well, Matt, let's just move on briefly to the marketplace. It's a natural segue because you're talking really about how you're participating as an artist and creating community through social media. So let's talk about the marketplace and also promotion.
Right. The marketplace on Cape Ann is just wonderful for artists. We have the Rockport Art Association. Active member of Rocky Neck Art Colony, as you mentioned, I'm very active in. There are various other organizations. C-Arts has an annual exhibition that's very, very good for artists. A lot of work is sold there, the Bass Rocks exhibition. So there's a lot of places to exhibit in Cape Ann and the North Shore. And I've had almost 300 exhibitions over the last 7 years, which is when I moved to Rockport.
That's very impressive.
Well, there's just a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, it is. And you pursue it.
Yeah, sure. My wife and I both do, because we just love making work and showing it and seeing everybody else's work and talking to everybody else at the openings. And
Right.
Scene.
Yeah, it really fosters a sense of community. I love participating that way as well. So on that note, this isn't going to last forever. So let's talk about what's next for you and where can we find your work?
The governor shut down non-essential businesses on March 10th. At that point, we were halfway through a show at the Rocky Neck Art. A jury show called Finding Structure. And I have a piece there. And when the governor opens up business again, including galleries, the plan is that show will stay up for another 2 weeks to finish its run.
Okay.
And then the next show after that is another juried show that's called Beyond Likeness. And it's sort of variations on the old theme of portraiture.
Okay.
So portraits that are different in some way and unusual are what the jurors were looking for. And I was able to get 3 portraits into the show.
Terrific.
So that'll run for another month.
Good for you, Matt. So we're really running out of time, unfortunately. There's so many bases we could cover. Where can we find you?
My website, mattcegelisart.pixels.com.
All right, terrific. I have to say, what a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to also say to our listeners that this program will be aired on 1623 ARTWaves social media platforms to include Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Channel 12. I'm Christine Fisher. Thanks so much for watching. Stay well, everybody. Catch you next time.
Bye.